He took her hands, his smile warm and filled with pride. "Aisha, there's something important I've been meaning to share with you. Something I've kept hidden for too long." Aisha's heart quickened. Over the months, she had learned to trust Teo fully, but she couldn't deny the lingering curiosity about the hints of wealth she had seen. His carefully hidden jewelry, the fine watch, the silks tucked away in corners of their home. And, of course, there was his mysterious respect from the merchants in town. Teo took a deep breath and looked into her eyes. "Aisha," he began, "the life we've lived here has been a choice, a way for me to find someone genuine and true. But the truth is, I am not who I've led you to believe. And used." He paused, letting his words sink in. Aisha stared at him, a mixture of confusion and excitement on her face. She tightened her grip on his hands, urging him to continue. "I am Teo Adedeo," he said quietly, "the heir to one of the wealthiest families in the neighboring city. My family owns land, estates, and businesses, far more than you could imagine. This humble life we've been living was my choice, a way to find someone who could see beyond wealth and status. Someone who would love me for the man I am, not for what I possess." Aisha's mind spun as his words settled over her. She had always sensed there was something more to Teo, a depth and complexity that didn't quite fit his humble exterior. But this was beyond anything she had imagined. Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Why would you choose to live this way when you didn't have to?" Teo looked down, his expression thoughtful. "Because, Aisha, wealth has a way of blinding people. I wanted to find a wife who could love me without the influence of riches, who valued character over luxury. And I found that in you." He placed a gentle hand on her cheek, his eyes filled with sincerity. "You have shown me a love that is pure and selfless, and I could never repay you for that. Today, I want to share my life with you, the real life I kept hidden." Aisha felt tears welling in her eyes. She had endured so much, accepted so many sacrifices, and here was Teo, her husband, revealing that he had chosen her not for convenience or obligation, but out of genuine love and admiration. "So, what does this mean for us?" she asked softly, a hint of wonder in her voice. Teo smiled, taking her hands in his. "It means we will finally live the life I've dreamed of sharing with you. Tomorrow, we will leave this small home and travel to my family estate. I want you to see the world that is rightfully yours, the life I have kept hidden until now." The following morning, they prepared for their journey to the city. Aisha was filled with a mixture of excitement and nervousness as she packed her belongings, saying goodbye to the small, modest home that had been their sanctuary. She knew her life was about to change, but she felt ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. As they traveled, Aisha marveled at the changing landscape. The bustling city soon came into view, with its grand buildings, sprawling markets, and well-dressed citizens. She felt a strange sense of awe as they entered the heart of the city, realizing that this was now a part of her life, a world she had only heard about but never dreamed she would inhabit. When they finally arrived at Teo's family estate, Aisha was speechless. The mansion stood tall and majestic, surrounded by lush gardens and fountains that sparkled in the sunlight. Servants lined the entrance, bowing respectfully as they passed. Aisha felt a pang of nervousness and used to such grandeur, but Teo's reassuring hand in hers reminded her that she belonged here by his side. Inside, Teo introduced Aisha to the staff, each of whom greeted her with warmth and respect. The house was a marvel of elegance, with rooms adorned in fine tapestries, intricate carvings, and chandeliers that cast a warm, golden glow. Aisha felt as though she had stepped into a dream. In the days that followed, Teo guided her through the estate, showing her every corner of the life he had once kept hidden. He introduced her to his business associates and friends, who welcomed her warmly and praised her for her kindness and grace. Aisha felt a mixture of pride and humility, knowing that she had been chosen not for wealth or appearances, but for the love and character she had always held dear. As they prepared to host a grand reception to announce their marriage to the city's elite, Aisha felt a wave of emotions. She had never imagined herself in such a role, standing beside a man who was respected and admired, living in a world of such luxury. But she knew that her place was by Teo's side, sharing the life he had worked so hard to build. The night of the reception was breathtaking. Guests arrived in elegant attire, the estate glowing with lanterns and flowers. Musicians played soft melodies, filling the air with an atmosphere of warmth and celebration. Aisha wore a gown that Teo had chosen for her, a flowing dress of deep blue silk that accentuated her beauty. As she entered the hall on Teo's arm, all eyes turned to her, admiration and respect in their gazes. Among the crowd, Aisha spotted her stepmother and Kemi, who had arrived uninvited, their expressions a mixture of shock and envy. Mama Kemi could barely contain her disbelief, her eyes darting between Aisha and Teo, as if unable to comprehend the scene before her. Kemi's face was twisted in resentment, her posture rigid as she clutched her mother's arm. Teo led Aisha to the center of the hall, raising his glass in a toast. Tonight, we celebrate not only our marriage, but the love and loyalty that brought us together. I am grateful to have found a partner who values kindness, humility, and strength of character above all else. Aisha, you have shown me what true love is, and I am honored to have you as my wife. The guests raised their glasses, applauding as Aisha looked up at Teo, her heart swelling with gratitude and joy. She had found not only a husband, but a life filled with purpose and love. After the toast, Mama Kemi approached them, her expression a mixture of desperation and forced politeness. Aisha, Teo, she began, her voice trembling slightly. We had no idea of your wealth. It was only a misunderstanding. We were simply looking out for you." Aisha met her stepmother's gaze, her expression calm but resolute. "Mama Kemi," she replied softly, "your choice to marry me off was not about my well-being, but your own desires. I endured much because of it, but I have forgiven you. Today, I choose to move forward, grateful for the life I have found with Teo." Mama Kemi shifted uncomfortably, Kemi scowling beside her, realizing that their schemes had left them with nothing. They were forced to watch as Aisha and Teo moved forward, surrounded by warmth and love, an undeniable contrast to the life of greed and bitterness they had chosen for themselves. As the night unfolded, Aisha felt a deep sense of peace. She had risen above the hardships of her past, transformed by love and respect. And as she looked into Teo's eyes, she knew she had found her true home, a place not built on wealth or status, but on the unwavering bond they shared. Together, they danced beneath the soft glow of the chandeliers, surrounded by friends and family, their hearts bound by a love that no scheme or deception could ever undo. Months passed after the grand reception, and Aisha and Teo's life settled into a rhythm that combined warmth, joy, and purpose. Though they enjoyed the luxuries their wealth afforded, they remained humble, often returning to the simplicity of their first home on the outskirts of the city. This balance grounded them, a reminder of where their journey together had begun. For Aisha, this life was almost like a fairy tale. Her days were filled with joy and fulfillment as she worked alongside Teo, learning the ins and outs of his business, managing their estate, and engaging in charitable work that allowed her to give back to the community. Teo encouraged her to find her passions, supporting her in every endeavor. As each day passed, she felt her love for him deepen, grateful that they had found one another. But despite the happiness surrounding her, there was one shadow from her past that occasionally lingered in her mind, her stepmother and Kemi. Although they had last parted at the reception with tension and bitterness, Aisha couldn't forget the years of hardship and pain they had caused her. She had moved on, forgiven them in her heart, but she hadn't forgotten. One afternoon, while Teo and Aisha were having tea in the garden, a servant approached them, bowing politely. "Excuse me, sir, madam," he said, clearing his throat. "A woman has come to see you. She insists she's family." Aisha's brow furrowed, a mix of curiosity and apprehension stirring within her. "Who is it?" she asked quietly, though she already had a strong feeling. The servant looked uncomfortable. She introduced herself as Mama Kemi. She has her daughter with her as well. Teo looked to Aisha, his expression gentle. "Shall I turn them away?" Aisha hesitated, her heart conflicted. A part of her wanted to send them away, to protect the peaceful life she had built with Teo. But another part of her, the part that had endured years of cruelty with grace, wanted to face them one last time, to confront the painful memories they had left behind and close that chapter for good. No, she said softly, taking Teo's hand. Let them come in. Perhaps it's time I speak to them. Teo nodded, giving her hand a comforting squeeze. They waited in silence until Mama Kemi and Kemi were ushered into the garden. The contrast between their simple attire and the opulent surroundings was stark, and Aisha noticed how uncomfortable they looked, their eyes darting around in wonder and jealousy. Mama Kemi tried to regain her composure, forcing a smile as she approached them. Aisha, my dear, she said, her voice dripping with false warmth. How lovely it is to see you again. And Teo, thank you for allowing us into your beautiful home. Aisha remained seated, her expression calm and unreadable. She nodded politely, gesturing for them to sit across from her and Teo. Kemi refused to meet Aisha's gaze, her face drawn into a frown, clearly irritated by the grandeur around her. I must admit, Mama Kemi continued, glancing around, we have fallen on hard times. With your father gone and no income to sustain us, life has become difficult. Aisha listened in silence, her gaze steady. She had expected this. Mama Kemi's sudden appearance could mean only one thing. She was hoping for financial help. I can only imagine how challenging that must be, Aisha replied, her tone neutral. I remember a time when things were difficult for me as well. Mama Kemi's eyes flickered, her smile faltering. Yes, well, I know we may not have always seen eye to eye, Aisha, but family is family, and surely we can let bygones be bygones. Aisha exchanged a look with Teo, who offered her a small nod of encouragement. She took a breath, feeling a sense of strength wash over her. Mama Kemi, she began, her voice gentle but firm, I remember the years I spent under your roof, working tirelessly, treated as if I was nothing more than a burden. I remember the day you forced me into a marriage with a man you thought was beneath your daughter Kemi's standards. You didn't hesitate to trade me away because you saw me as dispensable. Kemi shifted uncomfortably, her cheeks reddening as Aisha continued. I accepted my fate because I had no other choice, Aisha went on, her voice unwavering. But I was fortunate, more fortunate than you could ever have imagined. I found a man who loved me, who valued me not for what I could do for him, but for who I am. I found a life I never thought possible, a life filled with respect and kindness. Mama Kemi forced a chuckle, attempting to lighten the moment. Well, we all make mistakes, don't we? Surely you can forgive us for a little oversight. Aisha's expression softened as she looked at her stepmother, truly seeing her for the first time. She saw a woman whose greed had left her empty, whose bitterness and envy had robbed her of any real joy. And she saw Kemi, resentful and ashamed, still clinging to the arrogance that had kept her blind to the truth. I forgave you long ago, Mama Kemi, Aisha replied, her voice soft yet firm. I forgave you for everything, not because you asked for it, but because I needed peace in my own heart. Mama Kemi's face brightened with hope, but Aisha continued, her gaze steady. However, she said gently, forgiveness does not mean I will open my doors to the past. You chose your path, and I have chosen mine. Tayo and I have built a life together that is grounded in love, respect, and honesty. And I will protect that life from those who try to tear me down. A flash of anger crossed Kemi's face, her pride flaring as she looked at Aisha. How dare you speak to us this way, Aisha? Do you think you're better than us nows? Aisha looked at her stepsister calmly. No, Kemi, I don't think I'm better. But I know my worth. And that is something you taught me. Without even realizing it, Mama Kemi's expression soured, and she turned to Tayo, trying one last time. Please, Tayo. Surely you understand. You're a kind man. I can see that. Help us, for the sake of family. Tayo shook his head gently, his voice calm but resolute. Mama Kemi, my loyalty is to my wife, Aisha, who has shown me nothing but grace and resilience. She is my family, and her happiness is my priority. We wish you well, but our lives will remain separate. Realizing that her pleas were futile, Mama Kemi stood, her face a mixture of anger and resignation. She looked down at Aisha, her voice cold. You may have wealth now, Aisha, but remember where you came from. Don't think you're so untouchable. Aisha stood as well, holding her head high. I'll never forget where I came from, Mama Kemi. That part of my life has shaped who I am. But I have moved on, and I hope one day you can, too. With that, she watched as her stepmother and Kemi left, their figures retreating from her life just as the painful memories began to fade. She felt a weight lift from her shoulders, a freedom she had never known before. That evening, as she and Tayo sat together by the fire, Aisha felt a deep sense of peace. She had faced her past, spoken her truth, and let go of the final remnants of bitterness that had once burdened her heart. She looked at Tayo, gratitude and love shining in her eyes. Thank you, she whispered, resting her head on his shoulder. Thank you for standing by me, for supporting me through it all. Tayo wrapped an arm around her, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. You are my heart, Aisha. Your strength, your kindness, they inspire me every day. I am the fortunate one. They sat together in contented silence, the fire casting a warm glow around them. Aisha knew that her life would continue to hold challenges, but with Tayo by her side, she was ready for anything. They had created a world of love, loyalty, and mutual respect, a world where she could finally live as her true self. As the stars shone brightly above, Aisha closed her eyes, feeling the sweet relief of a life redeemed. She had risen above her past, found her place in the world, and learned that the greatest treasures were those born of love and resilience. In Tayo's arms, she had found her home, and that was a gift worth more than any fortune. Moral of the story: This story teaches that true happiness and worth come from character, love, and resilience rather than wealth or social status. Teo, a wealthy man disguised as a humble tradesman, seeks a wife who values integrity over riches. Through Aisha's strength, kindness, and humility in the face of hardship, he finds genuine love. Aisha endures years of mistreatment from her greedy stepmother and stepsister, but her forgiving nature and inner strength lead her to a life of mutual respect and love with Teo. Despite her forgiveness, Aisha sets healthy boundaries to protect her happiness, illustrating that forgiveness doesn't require accepting past mistreatment. In contrast, her stepmother and stepsister, driven by envy and greed, end up unfulfilled and disappointed. The story underscores that while wealth may come and go, a life built on love, loyalty, and integrity is the true path to lasting fulfillment and peace.